This is Peter. He made $14,392 per hour in 2024 on all of the air live streams he played in, making him the #1 televised cash earner in Hostel Casino Live. No one really knows who Peter is or how he has his money. I researched all the popular forums only to see unhinged comments on theories on what he could be doing for a living, but no definitive answers. This mysterious guy got famous because of his overly aggressive playstyle and his ballsy movements in the $1 Million game earlier this year. Let's dive deep to see how he made his name in the high-stakes poker scene, as he appears in almost every live stream of Hustler's Casino, and we'll probably see him a lot in the upcoming year. He buys into the game for exactly $1 million and looks down at Ace King of Hearts right away. Rahul raises to 5k and Santosh calls. Peter decides to 3-bet for a small size of $15,000 and both players call. We go to a flop with $48,000 in the middle, which comes King 9 deuce two-tone. Action now checks to Peter, who bets $15,000 and only Rahul calls. Rahul's in pretty bad shape, having top pair and a decent kicker, and unless a scary card comes, Peter should be able to get a lot of value. The turn is now the 3 of hearts, the biggest blank on the planet. Rahul checks and Peter sizes up to $55,000, targeting hands like a weaker king or flush draws. Some sets might raise the size given how deep they are, but Rahul just calls. Peter is aware that he's most likely ahead. The river comes out of 4 of diamonds, bringing a hand strictly like Ace 5 of clubs that could have played this way. Other than that, Rahul is not expected to have any straights here. And all the flushes miss, so right now it's really hard for Rahul to get away from Peter's value. Peter now sizes up to $150,000 and Rahul goes into the tank. Rahul can't find any reasons to fold given how dry the run out has been, and not knowing how Peter plays puts him in the blender, but he ends up making the call. Right away, Peter wins a $489,000 pot. Next hand, Peter looks at 7-8 of hearts from the +1 position, which he just calls. It calls all the way around and we go 6 ways to a flop. Realize Stanley has kings here and he tried to trap and induce a raise, but things turned out pretty bad for him until the flop comes King 6-4 and he has top set. Peter has a flush and a straight draw as well, and these two guys are about 1,000 big blinds deep. Peter takes out the lead and bets 5,000. Stanley now raises to 25,000, which he could be doing with a lot of flush draws, middling sets, but Peter would not expect Stanley to have kings here a lot because of how pre-flop action went. Stanley's going to have less ace x of hearts because he probably would have squeezed with those pre, and Peter also has heart blockers. Because of all the reasons above, Peter puts in the call. Turn is a 3 of diamonds. Strictly 5-7 gets there. Peter checks in flow and Stanley bets half pot. This is the target hands like exactly Peter has, but Peter decides to check raise this turn? What a madman. His aggressive comes out, and as he has 8-7, he could also have 5-7, which is why he decides to represent it. He's strictly saying that he's a straight or set because the turn raises, especially on a board like this, are super underbluffed. This raise is so reproved, but not many people can find this line, especially in a televised live stream that you're playing for $1 million. Stanley doesn't take too much time before calling. The river now comes to 9 of hearts and Peter gets there. Peter goes into a mini tank and decides what size a hand like Ace King or better could call. Peter picks a size when he's targeting 1 pairs, 2 pairs, and sets, and if he gets raised, he can fold given how deep him and Stanley are, and Stanley could easily end up here with a higher flush. Stanley verbalizes that he should fold his hand because he thinks Peter has 5-7. He tanks about a solid 8 minutes and eventually makes the call. A $624,000 pot gets pushed Peter's way. He's up $500,000 within the first hour of the stream, and he's definitely running amazing. This is the hand that made Peter's fame, where he looks down at Ace King off in the big blind. Brandon raises to 7,000 from the hijack position. Peter now 3-bets to 32,000. Brandon very quickly calls. Before we see the $70,000 flop, I'm going to kindly ask you to hit that little red subscribe button because 98% of my viewers are not subscribed to my channel. Enough with my shameless plug, the flop now comes 8-8-5, 2 spades. Pair boards will usually favor the 3-better as they would have a lot of overpairs or hands like Ace King, which will be ahead of the caller's range. Knowing this, Peter goes for a standard size of 20,000 and Brandon quickly puts in the call. Also, Brandon can have hands like 8-9, Ace-8, or pocket 5s that could play this way. On the turn, Peter checks and Brandon senses Peter's weakness and takes the betting lead. He chooses a size of 77,000 which is huge considering the size of the pot, effectively turning his ace high into a bluff. Peter thinks about it. It looks like a very polarized range. If Brandon had quads, he could check back the turn or bet small to induce a raise, and Brandon could also have some middling pocket pairs, but I don't think he's going to be 3-betting them facing an under the gun open. Peter finds the call, thinking about Brandon can have some creative bluffs here, as middling pairs could check back some of the time in case Peter has an overpair. We go to the river, which is a 6 of clubs. This card looks like a wet and dynamic card, but given how this hand has been played, neither player will end up with a straight here. All the hands that make a straight on this board would have already been folded, flushes miss as well, Peter checks, and Brandon bets 217,000, a pot-sized bet. But Peter snap calls him? Wait, what? I mean, how did he do that? This guy is a magician. He definitely had his mind set up before facing the bet because the speed that he made that call was unbelievable. Very big props to Peter, calling with his ace high facing this massive bet, definitely making him one of the scariest players on the table after everyone sees this action and Peter's cards. How do you think Peter figured it out so professionally? Do you think this was a good call in the long run, or have you done anything different? Comment down what you think, because this hand was definitely off the books. This point into the stream, Peter is up $1.2 million in 4 hours. After that ace king hand, the table is going to be very scared of him and what he's capable of doing. Unless it's Peter's time to face the master villain himself, Alan Keating. Peter calls with 4,000, having ace 5 off, Brandon calls as well, and Keating now comes in for a raise for about $35,000. A 9x squeeze from the small blind as he gets Peter to call in position. There's $82,000 in the pot already, and we got a flop of ace 9-4 with 2 spades. These players are $2 million effective at this point, and Keating wastes no time, seeing an ace on the board, and he bets half pot. He'd do the same with his better aces, and Peter could very well be in bad shape with a weaker ace here. However, Peter can't be folding top pair to a plop continuation bet, so he calls. Turn is now a 10 of hearts, bringing in the second flush draw and giving Keating some hope for the gutter. Keating does not slow down and bets $150,000, a pot-sized bet that could indicate a lot of things. He could be doing this with a flush draw, he could be doing this with a hand like ace king or ace x of hearts, open-ended straight draw. There are a lot of possibilities given how deep these two players are. It's really hard spot because Peter just has his top pair and it's just a bluff catcher at this point. He can beat hands like flush draws, straight draws, or hand like kings, queens, jacks that Keating couldn't have chosen to turn into a bluff on this turn. Peter likes his odds against this master villain as he will most likely overbluff these turns, and he calls. The river rolls out the queen of clubs. Keating now has the nuts. This should at least be some help to Peter as some straights get there but flushes miss. This could cause him to get curious facing polarizing bets. Keating bets 575,000 into 462, making the pot go over $1 million. This spot, ladies and gentlemen, is where the true heroes are made. As an aggressive player, when you face aggression, knowing what to do is the absolute hardest thing to do, especially when you put your money in with your ace high and won at Showdown, the previous hand you played. Your top pair should be good, right? There's no way Keating is not bluffing here, right? Yeah, been there, done that. Peter puts in the calling chips and loses $800,000 in this pot. However, this hand he played was just one run, not the entire marathon, as he finishes the 4-day-long $1 million Hustler Casino series up $2.3 million as the biggest winner of the series. He looked very serious in the $1 million game, but in the following HCL streams, he showed how sincere and nice how he really is when the stakes were not as high. If you watch this guy play on the daily streams, you're going to see him punt a lot of money in a different variety of hands. He's definitely an amazing action player and can't wait to watch him in the $20-25 million game again. If you've come this far, you can check this video where Antonio Esfandiari crushed his competition on Hustler Casino Live and went all in with crazy hands like 8-6, or you can watch this video of me playing degenerate low stakes poker and doing tricks to maximize my profits. Stay safe and have a great 2025. Peace.